At 3:42 p.m., the city was loud. Too loud. Cars bled into horns. Conversations layered over footsteps. Distant sirens stitched everything together into one endless, suffocating fabric of noise. Most people didn't notice it anymore, but Elias Varn did. He noticed everything. Elias stood perfectly still at the corner of Hallbrook Street, eyes half-lidded, as if bored. But he wasn't bored. He was listening, not to the noise, but to what hid beneath it. There it was. Again, a gap, a fraction of a second, where everything seemed to collapse into nothing. No sound, no movement, no presence. Silence, pure, absolute, perfect. Elias smiled. Most people believed silence was simply the absence of sound. They were wrong. Silence was something else, something alive, something that waited. And lately, it had been getting longer. He checked his watch. 3:43 p.m. 1 minute had passed, but it didn't feel like 1 minute. It felt stretched, distorted. Elias adjusted his gloves. Black, always black. Across the street, a woman laughed loudly into her phone. Too loud, too careless. Her name, he already knew, was Sarah Linden, 32, marketing consultant, routine-driven, predictable. He had been watching her for 6 days, not because he wanted to, because the silence wanted him to. It always chose. He just followed. Sarah turned the corner, unaware she had already been selected. Elias waited exactly 3 seconds before moving. Not 2, not 4, 3. Timing mattered. Everything had to align perfectly with the gaps. He followed at a distance, not too close, not too far. Never directly behind. Always slightly off angle. Always outside instinct. She entered a cafe. Glass doors. Warm lighting. Background chatter. Safe, Elias stopped outside. He didn't go in. He never rushed. Instead, he watched a reflection in the window. Reflections told the truth people tried to hide. Sarah ordered something sweet, sat by the window, checked her phone, smiled at something meaningless. And then, it happened again. The gap, this time longer. The cafe froze. Literally. The barista stopped mid-motion. Coffee suspended mid-pour. A man blinking, never finishing it. Everything locked in place. Except Elias. He stepped forward slowly, calmly, like walking through a photograph. Inside, the air felt thicker, muted, like sound itself had been drained out. He approached Sarah. She was smiling at her phone, frozen, alive, but not present. Elias leaned closer to her face, studying, memorizing. "Not yet," he whispered, because this wasn't the moment. The silence hadn't peaked. He could feel it, like pressure behind his eyes, like something building, something that needed to break. Elias stepped back, right as everything resumed. Sound crashed back violently. The coffee spilled. The man finished blinking. Someone laughed too loudly. No one noticed. No one ever noticed, except him. And now, it was happening more often, which meant only one thing. The pattern was accelerating. And when it accelerated, people disappeared. Not randomly. Never randomly. Precisely. Elias left the cafe without being seen. He didn't look back. He never did. Because once the silence marked you, looking back didn't matter. You were already gone. That night at 11:18 p.m., Elias sat in his apartment. No lights, no music, no distractions, just a chair and a wall. On the wall, photographs, dozens of them, each one of a person mid-action, laughing, walking, turning, all taken seconds before the gap. All of them, gone now, not dead, not missing, something else. Elias stood slowly and approached the wall. His fingers hovered over one photo. A man named Luke Harrow, taken 3 weeks ago. Too early, Elias murmured, because Luke had disappeared during a short gap, and that wasn't supposed to happen. The silence was evolving, breaking its own rules, and that had never happened before. Elias pressed his palm against the wall, closed his eyes, and listened. At first, nothing. Then, a whisper, not outside, inside his head. You felt it. Elias didn't react. "I always do," he replied quietly. A pause. Then, "Soon you won't need to wait." Elias' eyes opened slowly. That was new. Very new. "What does that mean?" he asked. Silence. But not empty. Watching. Waiting. Hungry. Elias exhaled slowly. For the first time, something felt wrong. Not the silence. Himself. Because for years, he had followed it, trusted it, understood it. But now, it was speaking back. And that meant it had been listening all along. At 2:07 a.m., Sarah woke up. Her room was dark. Quiet. Too quiet. She sat up slowly, heart racing for no reason. Something felt off. Her phone buzzed. A notification. Unknown number. She hesitated, then opened it. A photo. Her. Inside the cafe. Smiling at her phone. Timestamp. 3:44 p.m. But she had left at 3:40. She remembered. Clearly, her hand began to shake. Another message appeared. "You stayed longer than you think." Sarah's breath caught. Then, one final message. "Next time, you won't leave." The lights in her room flickered, and for a fraction of a second, everything went silent. At 4:11 p.m. the following day, Sarah tried to convince herself it had been a mistake, a glitch, a coincidence. People received strange messages all the time. Wrong numbers. Spam. Harmless, meaningless noise. But this didn't feel like noise. It felt intentional, personal, precise. She hadn't told anyone where she had been, hadn't posted anything, and yet the image on her phone showed a moment she didn't remember living. That was the part she couldn't shake. Not the threat, not the message, the missing time. She sat in her apartment, curtains half closed, the dull gray light of late afternoon pressing against a glass. Every sound felt amplified. The ticking clock, the hum of her refrigerator, the faint footsteps of someone upstairs. She kept checking the timestamp. 3:44 p.m. For minutes that didn't exist in her memory. For minutes that someone else had. Across the city, Elias Varn stood inside an abandoned parking structure, 3 levels underground, where sound died before it had the chance to echo. He preferred places like this. Places where silence wasn't interrupted. It was preserved. He leaned against a concrete pillar, eyes closed, listening. Not to the world, but to the absence of it. The gaps had been growing stronger since yesterday. Longer, sharper, hungrier. He could feel them now even before they happened, like pressure building behind a locked door. His gloved fingers tightened slightly. Something was different. The silence wasn't disappearing anymore. It was anticipating. At 4:13 p.m., it arrived. Not gently, not subtly, violently. Everything snapped. The distant city noise above vanished instantly, like a switch had been flipped out of existence. No fading, no transition. One moment there was sound, the next there was nothing, absolute nothing. Elias opened his eyes slowly. The world had stopped again, but this time it felt wrong. The air felt heavier, thicker, as if reality itself had stalled mid-breath. A drop of water falling from a pipe nearby hung suspended in the air, trembling but never falling. Elias stepped forward, his movements calm but alert. He could feel it immediately. This gap was deeper than the others, more complete, more invasive. Too long, he whispered under his breath. Then he heard it, not the silence. Something inside it. A faint vibration, like a distant pulse. Alive, moving. Elias turned his head slightly, as if trying to locate the source. But it wasn't coming from any direction. It was everywhere. And then, for the first time in years, he hesitated, because the silence wasn't empty anymore. It was occupied. The moment snapped back. Sound returned all at once, violent, overwhelming. The water dropped at the ground. A car alarm screamed somewhere above. Metal creaked loudly in the structure. Elias inhaled sharply, his composure cracking for just a second. That wasn't supposed to happen, he murmured. And somewhere far from him, Sarah screamed, back in her apartment. She had been standing in her kitchen when it happened. One moment she was pouring water into a glass. The next, everything stopped. The stream of water froze midair, twisting unnaturally like glass. The hum of electricity vanished. Her own breathing disappeared. She tried to inhale, but for a fraction of a second, she couldn't. Panic exploded instantly. She dropped the glass, but it didn't fall. It hovered beside her hand. And then she saw it. Not clearly, not fully, but enough. Something moved behind her. Not a reflection, not a shadow. Something wrong. Something that didn't belong to the room. Her body locked in place, not by force, but by instinct so primal it bypassed thought entirely. Her eyes shifted slowly toward the dark hallway behind her. There was no one there, but the feeling remained. Watching, measuring, waiting. Then everything came crashing back. The glass shattered against the floor. The water splashed violently. Sound flooded her ears so hard it made her dizzy. She staggered backward, hitting the counter, her heart slamming uncontrollably. Her phone buzzed. She didn't want to look, but she did. Another message, another image. This time, it wasn't from the cafe. It was from her apartment, taken seconds ago. Her back turned, the frozen water suspended in front of her, and behind her, something blurred, distorted, unfinished, not quite human. The message below read, "You felt it this time." Her hand began to tremble uncontrollably. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, her voice barely forming. The reply came instantly. "Not you." She froze. Another message appeared. "You're just where it started breaking." Across the city, Elias felt at the same moment the message was sent. Not the words, but the shift. The pattern had fractured. The rules were gone now. The silence wasn't selecting anymore. It was spreading, and that meant one thing. It no longer needed him. For the first time since he had begun following it, Elias felt something unfamiliar crawl under his skin. Fear, not of being hunted, but of being replaced. He moved quickly now, leaving the parking structure, stepping back into the noise of the city. But even the noise felt thinner, weaker, like it was being eaten from the inside. People passed by him without noticing, unaware that something fundamental had begun to tear. Elias looked at them differently now, not as individuals, but as variables, potential points of failure, potential entry points. His mind raced, tried to rebuild the pattern, to understand a new structure. But there wasn't one. That was the problem. Chaos had entered the system, and chaos didn't follow rules. It created them. That night, at 1:26 a.m., Sarah locked herself inside her bedroom. Every light in the apartment was on. The television played loudly in the background, desperate noise to fill the growing dread. She hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt it again, that presence behind her, not touching, not moving, just existing, waiting for the gap. Her phone lay on the bed beside her, silent. For now, she stared at it, afraid of the next vibration, afraid of what it would show. Minutes passed, then an hour, then silence, not natural silence. The wrong kind, the deep kind, the kind that swallowed sound instead of lacking it. Her eyes widened slowly. No, 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 no. The TV cut out mid-sentence. The lights froze in a dim flicker. The air became suffocatingly still. The gap had returned. But this time, it didn't feel like a pause. It felt like an opening. Something shifted in the darkness of her room. Closer than before. Closer than it should be. Her breath vanished again, her chest locking in place. Tears filled her eyes instantly as she tried to move, to scream, to do anything, but her body refused. And then, a voice, right behind her ear. Soft, calm, wrong. You hear it now too. A hand touched her shoulder. Cold, real. Everything snapped back violently. Sound exploded. The TV blared. The lights surged. Sarah collapsed forward, gasping for air, her body shaking uncontrollably. She spun around instantly. There was no one there, but her shoulders still felt the pressure, still felt the fingers. Her phone buzzed one last time. She didn't need to look, but she did anyway. The screen showed a live camera feed. Her room, from behind her, the exact position where nothing had been standing. The message came seconds later. Now you understand. Across the city, Elias stopped walking, his head tilted slightly, and for the first time, he smiled again, not because he understood, but because something finally answered back, and whatever it was no longer hiding. Sarah didn't sleep, not for a single minute. By 6:12 a.m., her body had already begun to fail her. Her eyes burned, her thoughts came in fragments, and her sense of time felt unreliable. Every second stretched too long or passed too quickly. The world had lost its rhythm. She stayed in the bedroom, sitting against the wall, knees pulled close to her chest. The television was still on, volume high, cycling through meaningless noise she wasn't processing. It didn't comfort her anymore. It only filled space. Her phone hadn't vibrated again. That was worse. Silence now meant expectation. And expectation meant it would come back. Across the city, Elias had not gone home. He moved without direction, walking through crowded streets as if searching for something only he could perceive. His eyes scanned people carefully, not their faces, but their timing, the way they blinked, the way they moved between actions. He was looking for fractures. For years, the pattern had been predictable. Gaps appeared. Time paused. He observed. Then, eventually, someone vanished. But now, the sequence was broken. The interruption no longer ended cleanly. It left residue. At 7:03 a.m., he found it. A man stood at a crosswalk, waiting for the signal to change. Nothing unusual at first glance. Early 40s, average build, dressed for work. But something in his posture felt delayed. His head tilted slightly too late when traffic passed. His hand twitched half a second after adjusting his sleeve. Out of sync, Elias stepped closer, blending into the small group waiting to cross. He didn't look directly at the man. He watched through reflection, glass from a nearby storefront. That's when he saw it clearly. The man blinked, but his reflection didn't. Elias' jaw tightened. That had never happened before. The signal changed. People began to cross. The man moved with them, but the delay worsened. His steps didn't align with the ground. His body followed instructions too slowly, as if something inside him was struggling to keep control. Halfway across the street, he stopped. Abruptly, people bumped into him, irritated, muttering under their breath. But he didn't react. He just stood there, staring ahead. Then his mouth opened, not to speak. Too wide, too far. A low sound came out. Not quite a voice, not quite a breath. Something in between. Elias didn't move. He watched, carefully. The man's eyes shifted slightly, not toward anything specific, just searching. Then, without warning, he grabbed the woman beside him, Hard. She screamed, trying to pull away, but his grip tightened with unnatural strength. His expression didn't change. There was no anger, no panic, no awareness, only absence. Elias stepped forward, not to help, to observe. The man leaned closer to the woman's face, his lips barely inches from hers. And then he inhaled, deeply, like he was trying to breathe her in. The woman struggled harder, her panic rising into something desperate and primal. "Let go. What's wrong with you?" He didn't respond. He inhaled again, longer this time. Then he bit, not wild, not frantic, precise. His teeth sank into her cheeks slowly, deliberately, as if testing resistance before committing to it. The sound that followed wasn't loud, but it was enough. A wet, tearing pressure, the kind that didn't belong in public. The woman's scream fractured into something unrecognizable. People finally reacted, shouting, pulling, chaos breaking the normal rhythm of the street. But the man didn't stop. Even as others tried to drag him away, his jaw stayed locked. When he finally released, it wasn't because he chose to. It was because something inside him shifted. His body jerked violently. Once, twice. Then he went still. Too still. Elias watched closely, waiting. The man's head tilted again, slowly resetting. His mouth closed. His breathing returned. And then he looked around, confused. "What happened?" he asked weakly. Blood covered his face. The woman collapsed, hands shaking as she tried to hold what remained of her skin together. People surrounded her, voices overlapping, panic spreading outward. Sirens would come soon. Order would try to reassemble itself. But Elias knew better. This wasn't an isolated break. It was spreading. And worse, it was learning how to stay. He turned away before anyone noticed him. There was nothing more to see here. The moment had already passed, but the pattern hadn't. Back in her apartment, Sarah finally moved, slowly, carefully, as if sudden motion might trigger something. She stood, her legs weak, and walked toward the bathroom. Her reflection looked unfamiliar, not distorted, just disconnected, like she was seeing someone she hadn't fully become yet. She leaned closer to the mirror, studying her own eyes, looking for delay, looking for something out of place. For a second, nothing. Then, her reflection blinked first. Sarah froze instantly, her breath caught in her throat. "I didn't," she whispered. The reflection stared back, unmoving, aware. A small smile formed on its face. Not hers. Sarah stumbled backward, hitting the sink behind her. No, that's not. The lights flickered. The air shifted. The gap began again. But this time, she didn't feel alone. The reflection moved, stepping forward, even though she hadn't. And then, everything snapped back. The mirror was normal again, her own face staring back at her, shaking, terrified. Her phone vibrated. She already knew. Still, she looked. A message. "No one keeps their shape for long." Another followed. "Not even you." Across the city, Elias stopped walking again. His expression hardened. Now he understood. This wasn't about disappearance anymore. It was replacement. And whatever was inside the silence, it wasn't just taking people to... IT was learning how to become them. By 9:27 p.m., the city had already begun to pretend nothing was wrong. News reports called it an isolated incident. Witnesses are described as in shock. The man at the crosswalk had been taken in, restrained, sedated, labeled unstable. The woman survived, barely, her face reconstructed into something that would never quite belong to her again. Everything had been explained. Everything had been contained. But explanations only worked when reality followed rules. And it didn't anymore. Elias stood across the street from the hospital. He hadn't planned to come here. He simply felt pulled, like something unfinished was waiting inside. The air around the building felt wrong, thinner somehow, as if the structure itself had been cut slightly out of place. People walked in and out without noticing, but Elias noticed. He always did. Inside, Sarah sat on the edge of a hospital bed, her hands gripping the thin mattress beneath her. She didn't remember agreeing to come here. She barely remembered leaving her apartment. There were fragments, lights, voices, someone guiding her, but nothing solid. A nurse had asked her questions. She had answered some. Others, she couldn't. Not because she didn't want to, because the answers didn't exist. "Do you feel safe?" the nurse had asked. Sarah hadn't known how to respond.
If you have a strange experience or a story you can't explain, leave it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. There are many more stories waiting to be told. Until the next video, stay safe.